We know what deep and powerful learning looks like because we're learners as well. And so it looks like this. This isn't rocket science when we talk about what learning requires. We know that it's based on passion. We know that the best learning that we do happens when it's for a real audience, for a real purpose, when it has relevance in our lives, when it's not constrained by time, and when there are other people around us who are passionate to learn those things as well. But now I want to share with you a list of answers that no one ever gives when I ask that question. And it's amazing to me that in just about every school that I visit, in just about every classroom that I enter, these are the conditions that exist for the kids in those environments. These are the conditions that we create for them when we expect them to learn. Now, I think this disconnect between what we believe and what we practice is really powerful. And it is this disconnect that has led me to this surprising truth about schools and about learning. And that is that schools were not built for learning. Now, I know that's a challenging statement. I know that that makes us feel uncomfortable.
What is school for? I don't think we're answering that question. I don't even think we're asking that question. Everyone seems to think they know what school is for, but we're not going to make anything happen until we can all agree about how we got here and where we're going. School was about teaching obedience. It was to train people to be willing to work in the factory. It was to train people to behave, to comply, to fit in. We process you for a whole year. If you are defective, we hold you back and process you again. We sit you in straight rows, just like they organize things in the factory. There is zero value in memorizing anything ever again. Anything that is worth memorizing is worth looking up. So we shouldn't spend any time teaching people to memorize stuff.
How do you redesign school for wisdom? It's one thing to say we need to recycle the teachers, we need the directors to do more, we do. But the fact is that what we do with education is entirely obsolete. The teacher's role is entirely obsolete. Going from a math class to biology to 14th century France is very silly. If we were to design a school from scratch, what would it look like? Let's divide this role of the teacher into two. One guy we'll call a tutor. A tutor in the old sense of the Greek paideia sense is look after the kid. What's happening at home, what's their moment in life, etc. But please don't teach, because the little you know compared to Google, we don't want to know. Keep that to yourself.
Every education system in the world is being reformed at the moment, and it's not enough. Reform is no use anymore, because that's simply improving a broken model. What we need, and the word's been used many times during the course of the past few days, is not evolution, but a revolution in education. This has to be transformed into something else.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Parmeet Shah. I am the third generation of the family that runs Marathon Group. We have some very, very exciting announcements to make today. But before we get to that, I'd like to start off by sharing a little bit of history with you. My family has called Mulund their home for 100 years now. We have all grown up here. Mulund is our community, and Mumbai is our homeland. My great-grandfather, Bhai Shah, was one of the first citizens of Mulund. He had two sons. One of them, Ramnik Lal Shah, my grandfather, is here with us today. His story is very intriguing. Some of you may know that he was actually an educationist before he became a businessman. He has a very deep association with the very first school in Mulund, which is called SMPR. He started as a student there, then became a teacher, then the principal, and then a trustee, and then the president of the trust. So he's had a 50-year-old deep relationship with this school. So you can say that education runs very deep in his veins. He was the one who founded Marathon Group. And today, Marathon Group is announcing our largest, our biggest social endeavor till date, a school which we are calling Next. So you could say we've gone the full circle here. It is my grandfather's dream to build this school. So we are dedicating it to be forever in his name, as the school will operate under the banner of R.Z. Shah Trust. I just want to say on behalf of Marathon and R.Z. Shah Trust that this community, this city, it means everything to us. So we are so happy to have this opportunity to give back. Also, education means so much to us. It's always been sacred, and it's always had a very special importance to our family. On behalf of R.Z. Shah Trust and Marathon Group, I would just like to say that the intention has always been to do something special, to do something that will make Mulund proud, Mumbai proud, and maybe even India proud. It was 6 years ago that I took the lead on this project. And I did that because I've always had very strong feelings toward my own education. It started back when I was in 10th grade. I was a very good student, getting good grades. I was the head boy of my school and would participate in all the extracurricular activities. So on the surface, it was all great. But deep inside, there was this voice that was asking some very troubling questions. Why is school so boring? We would have 6 or 7 classes every day, and most of them were incredibly boring, and hardly anyone even paid attention. So, is this what learning feels like? Shouldn't it be rewarding and engaging? Because it felt the exact opposite. Why should I even go to school? I knew that at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered was what result I got on the board exam. And for that, I had to memorize all of these textbooks. But I'd rather do that at home. Sitting all day in class really wasn't helping. Also, was there any point to memorizing all this stuff? We knew that it was all gone the day after the exam. So back in 10th grade, school felt dry and boring. It felt irrelevant and pointless. Fortunately, this voice remained in my head. I didn't dare say any of these things out loud. But when I learned that Marathon Group was starting a school, these questions, these strong feelings, they all came rushing back. And I started looking for real solutions, real answers to these problems. We've been in a research and development phase for over 6 years now. And in the process, I've realized that the problems that I was thinking about back in 10th grade, they barely even scratched the surface. There is a growing movement all over the world that's speaking out against our system of education. Experts and thought leaders alike have highlighted a series of deep and fundamental problems with our system of education. We'd like to take you through some of those, so we made a little animated movie to explain them. The thing is, most of us have very happy memories of our school. We remember the relationships, the friends, the special teachers. But for a few moments, I want you to go back and think about the system of education. Think about what was rewarded and what was punished. Think about who did well and who didn't do so well. and if that was any reflection of how they did later on in life. Think about the classes and the lectures. So for a few moments, think about the system of education, and then watch our little animated movie.
There is a growing feeling today that something is wrong with our system of education. But what is it? Well, we send our children to school to prepare them for the real world, which is changing very, very fast. But our schools haven't changed much for hundreds of years. In fact, thought leaders from around the world agree that the current system of education was designed in the industrial age mainly to churn out factory workers. And this industrial age mentality of mass production and mass control still runs deep in schools. Industrial age values. We educate children by batches and govern their lives by ringing bells. All day long, students do nothing but follow instructions. Sit down, take out your books, turn to page 40, solve problem number 3, stop talking. At school, you're rewarded for doing exactly what you are told. These are industrial age values that were really important for factory workers. Their success depended on following instructions and doing exactly what they were told. But in today's world, how far can you get by simply following instructions? The modern world values people who can be creative, who can communicate their ideas and collaborate with others. But our children don't get a chance to develop such skills in a system that's based on industrial age values. Lack of autonomy and control. At school, our children experience a complete lack of autonomy and control. Every minute of a child's life is tightly controlled by the system. But in today's world, if you're doing important work, then you're managing your own time. You're making your own decisions regarding what to do and when to do it. But life at school looks very different. The system is sending a dangerous message to our children that they are not in charge of their own lives. They just have to follow whatever is laid down instead of taking charge and making the most of their lives. Experts believe autonomy is incredibly important for children. It's no wonder then that our children are bored and demotivated by school. Can you imagine how you would feel if you were told exactly what to do for every minute of your life? Inauthentic learning. Most of the learning that happens in schools today is not authentic because it relies on memorization and rote learning. The system defines a generic set of knowledge that all children must know. And then, every few months, we measure how much has been retained by administering exams. We know that such learning is not authentic because most of it is gone the day after the exam. Learning can be much deeper and more authentic. It can be so much more than just memorization and retention. But that's the only thing we measure, and test scores are the only thing we value. This has created an extremely unhealthy culture for students, parents, and teachers. Children are going through endless hours of tuitions, staying up all night memorizing useless facts that they will forget very soon. No room for passions and interests. We have an extremely standardized system where each child must learn the same thing at the same time in the same way as everyone else. This doesn't respect the basic fact of being human, that each of us is unique and different in our own way. We all have different passions and interests. And the key to fulfillment in life is to find your passion. But do the schools of today help our children find and develop their passion? There seems to be no room in the current education system for the most important questions in a child's life. What am I good at? What do I want to do in life? How do I fit into this world? The system doesn't seem to care. There are so many greatly talented people who failed in the traditional school system. Fortunately, they were able to overcome these failures, but not everyone can. We have no measure for how much talent, how much potential goes unrecognized in the current system. Differences in how we learn. Each of us is also different in how we learn, in how much time we take to learn something, and what tools and resources work best for us. But the system has no room for such differences. So if you're a bit slow in learning something, you are considered a failure, when all you needed was a bit more time to catch up. Lecturing. In the current system, children are lectured for more than 5 hours a day. But there are a few big problems with lecturing. Sal Khan from Khan Academy calls lecturing a fundamentally dehumanizing experience. 30 kids with fingers on their lips not allowed to interact with each other. Also, in any given classroom, different students are at different levels of understanding. Now, whatever the teacher does, there are bound to be students who are either bored because they are ahead or confused because they're behind. Because of the internet and digital media, our children have at their fingertips all the information in the world. Technology has made it possible for anyone to learn anything. But for fear of losing control, the system is not leveraging these incredible resources. Our system of education, which evolved in the industrial age, has become outdated and ineffective. If we want to prepare our children for the modern world, if we want learning to be effective and engaging, then there's no doubt that we need to fundamentally change our system of education.
Let's think of education as software. We just learned that this software is literally hundreds of years old. So what would happen if we say installed MS-DOS, if you can remember what that is, on a modern day iPhone? Well, it would severely limit the possibilities and the potential of your phone. It would make for a very frustrating and boring user experience. And this is exactly the reality of our system of education. Let's call it Education 1.0. The system is severely limiting the possibilities and the potential of our children. And what is the user experience? It's boring. It's frustrating. It's stressful. But the modern world is such a fun, exciting place. So why can't our schools be exciting? Our answer to these questions is simply that our software is outdated. We desperately need to update our software. We've been thinking deeply for a long, long time about what this update looks like, what the future of education looks like. We've been scouring the entire globe in search of answers. We've considered many different philosophies, paradigms, and programs. There has to be something better out there. There had to be someone who's figured out the solution to these problems. Well, and we had to find them. We had to do what's right for the future of our children, and we had to give them the best education in the world. Well, long story short, we found them. We are bringing what many consider to be the best educational program in the world. It's called Big Picture Learning. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are announcing that next will be India's first Big Picture school. Big Picture is a non-profit organization that started over 20 years ago in the US and recently has undergone rapid growth all over the world. As of today, they are in more than 165 schools in 9 different countries. They have received widespread acclaim from world leaders and experts alike. Barack Obama has said that the US will follow the example of Big Picture. Bill and Melinda Gates consider Big Picture their favorite program, and they've hugely funded Big Picture to replicate its model. But why is Big Picture the best educational framework in the world? Why is it the ideal update to our current system of education? Well, like any good software update, it solves all the problems in the current education system. It helps our children learn exponentially more and grow much faster than the current system. It focuses on 21st century skills like creativity, collaboration, communication, goal setting, planning. And perhaps most importantly, it makes education fun and rewarding and engaging. So, how does it do all these things? Well, first we'll talk about the principles at the core of Big Picture, and then Kavita, who's our head of school, will take you through exactly how the system works. I mentioned that Big Picture solves all the problems in the current education system. We considered 6 different problems in our animated movie, and perhaps these 6 problems can be categorized into 2 sections: standardization and outdated values. The traditional system is extremely standardized. Each student must learn the same thing at the same time in the same way as everyone else. Because of this, there's no way to allow for differences in how our children learn. Lecturing becomes our primary teaching methodology, and in a standardized system, there's no way to develop the unique passions and interests of each child. The other category of problems has to do with outdated values. The system is based on industrial age values of doing simply what you're told and simply following instructions. It's based on paradigms of mass control, which gives our children no autonomy, freedom, or choice. And it values inauthentic forms of learning, like memorization and rote learning. These are some big problems. Now, there are 2 overarching principles at the core of Big Picture, which address each and every one of these problems. To address the problem of standardization, we have personalization. What do we mean by personalization? Well, think of any great experience you've had at good restaurants, hotels, or even clothing designers. They don't give you standardized packaged stuff. They give you a custom, tailor-made experience based on your wishes and your needs. Think about how wonderful it would be if we could do that for our children and their education. And that's exactly what Big Picture does. Big Picture's mission statement is 1 student at a time. Personalization means that we can allow our children to learn at their own pace. So if someone's really good at maths and physics, he can keep going and maybe start preparing for his IIT exams when he's in school. Or if someone's not so good at English, we can spend as much time as he needs to get really, really good. The results of personalization are so clear. Big Picture students take college-level classes when they're in 9th or 10th grade. Because Big Picture is personalized, we can figure out what tools and resources work best for each child. Big Picture students learn from all the different avenues available in today's world. Now, this is perhaps the most powerful piece of Big Picture's personalized framework. Big Picture allows us to ask each child what he wants to learn. What are his interests and passions? What is he curious about? Just think about how energizing, how motivating this can be. Because now, school is about what you want to learn. And not only that, from a very young age, we can help children figure out the answers to some of the biggest, most important questions in their life. What is your passion or interest? What are you curious about? What do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? And how can you fit into this world? We met a few Big Picture students on our visits to the US, and we asked them how Big Picture's personalized framework has helped them. Here's what they had to say.
Big Picture schools are really the only schools that I know of that ask you that question when you get in. When you walk through the doors and then they ask you, what do you love? And if you don't know what you love, let's find out together.
So if I went to a traditional high school, I would not be able to further and pursue my specialty, my career, what I want to do.
In middle school, here at Big Picture, they're already pushing you to start thinking about what your interests are, what you might want to do, career paths you might want to go into.
At my old high school, I really wasn't getting the type of experiences or the type of skills that I really wanted to learn. Why the school matters to me is kind of the freedom you get, right? Because like if you learn how to use it really well, you can do amazing things, right? So like these projects I would never have known how to do, or my programming skills would have stagnated in high school as I tried to focus on these other classes. And they give you a sort of an edge against other competing students, right, who usually come out of high school with like the same tool set as everyone else.
So as in a normal school, they'd assign you homework that you don't really care about, and you just do it because you have to do it. Right. I don't have to do anything that I'm doing right now, but I do it because I want to go forward. The fact that I can come to school every day and focus on what I really love to do has given me this kind of amazing head start on the rest of the industry. So I just finished making my resume for the first time, my filmmaker's resume. I look at other students that go to traditional high schools, and they don't get it. Right? It's like there's something that happens here that we get. We get this sense of ownership and responsibility and self-driven projects that other people don't get because they're in this pipeline. And they just get pushed through that pipeline, and then they end up at college, and then they end up at a career, hopefully at the end of it, and then that's that. They never really unlock this passion.
You're able to make your learning. You're not fed things that you're supposed to be learning and being told this is what you need to learn and this is when you need to learn it by. What I say is, if it's individualized to the person, then there's no person in the world who it can't be individualized for. If you were to throw a blanket on someone, it's not going to stay in the same shape it was when you held it there. It's going to change around the person. And that's kind of like what this is, where you just put someone in there and their education molds around them.
In a traditional school, you don't get the attention that you need when you don't understand something. You can't walk up to your teacher and be like, hey, can you tell me about this after class? Because after class, she has another class coming in. Big Picture is a one-on-one school. It's a one student at a time school. And because of that, you get much more attention that you need. And I recommend it to everyone, even adults. If there was a school for adults, go to Big Picture.
Personalization is incredibly powerful, because now school doesn't have to be about force-feeding knowledge to our children. It can be about what they want to learn. It can be about developing their interests and passions. It can be about unleashing curiosity instead of suppressing it. The second overarching principle has to do with the real world. Education today is becoming increasingly disconnected with the kind of knowledge and skills that make you successful in the real world. But Big Picture connects each child's learning to the real world in so many different ways at every step of the journey. It begins by what we call interest exploration, where children are exposed to a world of different professions, occupations, and industries. Big Picture believes in supplementing academic learning with project-based learning. So children are not just studying books all the time. They are doing real things. We've seen Big Picture kids do all kinds of projects. Students who are running their own businesses, making their own films, students making apps, creating websites, coding their own software, students who are developing prosthetic limbs and developing their own virtual reality game engines. There's a lot more to talk about. Big Picture has internship programs at the high school level where students work at a real organization out in the world. It has mentoring programs where students are mentored by real-world professionals in their field of interest. At every step of the way, Big Picture has figured out how to connect the learning of each child to the real world. And when you do that, you start developing 21st century skills. These students, they're not just learning maths. They're learning how to make business models and financial models. They're not just learning art. They're learning graphic design and filmmaking and presenting. These are the skills that are incredibly valuable in today's world. This leads to much more authentic learning. No book can teach you how to run a business or even be a good doctor or lawyer. We all know that the only way to authentically learn these things is to actually do it. And that's exactly what Big Picture believes in. When you're coding your own software, running your own business, these are the skills that you're not going to forget the next day. And in doing such amazing things, students develop self-directedness. They become autonomous. And autonomy is incredibly important. Because in today's world, it's not that someone's telling you exactly what to do all the time. In the modern world, you need to be able to set your own goals and manage your own time. You need to be able to plan and organize. And these are exactly the kind of things that you see at Big Picture schools. So, we asked some Big Picture students how Big Picture helped them connect their learning to the real world. And here's what they had to say.
If you look at my resume, it starts in 2014, or it starts in 2013. I was 14 years old, and it goes all the way to today. And it's got all of these different things that I've done in the past, all of these different internships. I was the director of a television studio when I was 14 years old. I made television shows. I got to direct a crew of 10 people, lighting, cameras, audio, the talent on set. That was something that I got to do. I had to go and design a 16-page business plan for investors, which that opportunity is allotted for us at these schools, and say, this is my idea, this is how I can make money, here's my numbers, here's how much money I'm going to make, here's how much money I want you to give me so I can make this amount of money, and then here's the return on investment, here's the return on sale, here's the cost of goods sold. And at the end of this pitch, you learn public speaking skills, you learn mathematics skills, like you learn business math, you learn really the truly important subjects in math. You need to do to figure out. You really need to do these kind of things. You need to talk to people, and you need to tell people about your idea to be able to learn it. It's not something you can take a test for, right? It's not something you can do a homework assignment for. This isn't something you can have a teacher assign you. This is only something you can get to when you have self-motivation and ownership.
I found an internship at the Bellevue Arts Museum because I loved art and crafting and making things. So what I did for them was I created social media posts for one of their exhibitions, taking photos of the art, sharing about the art, trying to get people interested in coming to the museum. And I developed a lot of graphs and charts. I analyzed data to show them where they're lacking and where they could grow as an organization, which was absolutely amazing. I learned so many skills about the basics of marketing, communicating ideas with people, getting people interested in doing things. So for the future, I want to try marketing, but in different areas, which is what I'm working on right now, finding an internship that will help me do that.
It was really interesting. I came back over the summer. I said, this is great. I want to do a project on this. And then I talked to them, and I decided I'll make like a little arm, just like a little robotic arm, a manipulator. I made it, and it worked. It looked kind of quirky because of the way I made it. Like right after that, I said, I want to make a hand. Like a robotic hand. I can morph into a bionic, then a prosthetic. So I'm looking through pure human anatomy, and I'm replicating that. And I'm basically making a muscle and bone structure for a more robotic lens. And I've already got plans for how to make it myoelectric, which means I can connect that to the nervous systems, or to the residual nerve endings, and pick up on that electrical signal to actually have it be manipulative, kind of like a normal hand or finger. It's going to go from us replacing what we had to advancing, taking evolution to our own hands.
As far as I know, so I'm a senior now, and most would regard me as a professional filmmaker because I I make videos for people and they pay me for it. That's what a professional is.
You become a professional, and these are things that people don't even do once they're out of college. But here, once you're a high school student, you're a professional, and you're learning, and you're growing, and you're working with other people. My most recent internship, which was at Foundry 10, and actually what I did was I created my own film. I wrote the script, I did all of the casting, I produced the film, I marketed the film, I directed the film, and I brought a bunch of individuals who are actual professionals. I mean, they've gone to film school, they actually get paid, and they do legitimate things. And I brought a team of us together to make this project, and I would never have been able to do that if I didn't go to Big Picture.
So these are the two overarching principles at the core of Big Picture. And you can see that they address almost each and every problem that we highlighted earlier. It addresses standardization with personalization, so children can learn at their own pace and utilize the various avenues of learning available today. It allows us to develop the passions and interests of each child. It's based on real-world values and real-world learning, which helps us develop 21st century skills. It's also based on doing real work, which leads to more authentic, lifelong learning. And it makes students self-directed and autonomous. We all feel very strongly that Big Picture addresses almost all the problems in the current education system. We feel that it is the absolute best educational paradigm in the world. It's the most deep and well thought out educational paradigm. Billionaire and entrepreneur Mark Ecko has said that Big Picture is the iPhone of education to the Walkman of the old. I'm sure you're wondering, how does this system work? How is it possible to do all of these things? Well, I've taken you through the principles at the core of Big Picture, and now Kavita, who's our head of school, will take you through the structure that makes it possible for us to do all of these things. Kavita brings 13 years of rich educational and leadership experience, but her need and her desire for change has brought her to next. Please welcome on stage, Kavita Sukhani.
Standing here in front of you all today, I couldn't feel more proud as today I'm being able to say that we are being the change we wanted to see in our world. We all know that we need a major change in our education system, and we, at Next, are really making it happen with a strong vision and action plan. So Parmeet took you through the two overarching principles of Big Picture: real-world learning and personalization. You saw the students at Big Picture schools have the opportunity to pursue and develop their unique passions. They're deeply engaged in the real world with real work. But how does this all come together? How do they manage all this? Let me take you through how the Big Picture framework actually works. To start with, a Big Picture school requires a certain structure. The advisory structure is at the heart of the Big Picture learning. A Big Picture school is divided into advisories. Each advisory has around 15 students with one advisor. Advisories are small, tight-knit families that become the home base for your child, and they could stay together for up to 4 years. Advisor is the learning coach for the student. The advisory structure ensures that your child forms deep relationships with his peers and the advisor. It allows the advisor to understand each child, her needs, interests, passions, in order to truly personalize the child's learning journey.
It's the comfort of the home base that lets them give shape to their explorations. At Big Picture, it's not the teacher, but the student who's at the center. All students have their own learning team. which includes the advisor, parents, mentor, and peers, opening up many avenues of learning. The learning team helps the student discover, develop own talents and passions, and connects them to the real-world occupations, professions, and mentors. The advisor helps each student create a personalized learning plan, which integrates academic goals and individual needs, and plan real-world projects based on student interest and passions. The learning plan allows us to truly personalize your child's education. It gives the student ownership and agency over their own learning, which leads to much higher motivation and fosters lifelong learning. Learning at a big picture school is not constrained by the school day or the school year. So we want to make the student's world, not one world which is in school and another world which is outside school. So these elements of big picture come together to create a framework that can truly and authentically personalize each child's education. It makes it possible for us to connect each child's learning to the real world so they build valuable 21st century skills and do real work and make real progress in their lives. When your child joins us, we have not just enrolled with the child, we've joined hands with the family. We strongly believe in relationships. We want to team up with you and your child to work towards what he or she wants to achieve in their life. We want children to work independently, make decisions, take up leadership roles in school, and develop ventures to connect with community. A big picture learning school cannot exist in a vacuum outside the community. The core of the student's education is learning through internships. As a result, the community plays an integral role in the educational success of the school. Before I take you ahead with further detail about the processes of school, I would like you to hear from big picture students as to why they feel a big picture school is the place to be.
Big Picture is an experience like you can't get anywhere else. Here at Big Picture, the teachers are really on your side. You know, they're rooting for you, they want you to succeed, and then also you get to learn, you know, what you want to do in life, and that's an important skill. Most people going to college have no idea what they want to do, so they might spend, you know, valuable college time and money trying to figure that out, but us going in, we already know exactly what we want to do, and we know where we want to go in life, and this school really helps you set goals and move forward.
So traditionally, you kind of follow the books, you follow the path. Everybody is just kind of doing the same thing. But the one thing that I really found was I gained a lot of independence. I became better at communication, I became better at collaborating with people, I became better at managing, which is not really something that you would expect a high school student to be doing.
In traditional school, you're just sitting down at a desk, your teacher is talking to you and you're taking notes. But at Big Picture, it's amazingly hands-on and you get to shape your learning and base it around your interests and your passions. Big Picture is all about finding where you want to go in life, teaching you 21st century skills. So things like public speaking. I'm a lot more confident when I get up in front of an audience, and I've actually had college students, family, friends come up to me and say, I've been doing this for however many years and I still get nervous, but you are way ahead of the game. Things like working with technology. At a traditional school, you have a textbook and you have a notebook. You're not surrounded by computers and programs that you're actually going to be using at a job site and learning how to use them at a job site. You start preparing for the real world now instead of waiting.
I sit here with my friends who want to stay in school for as long as they can. And we get to do what we love.
I would tell someone to choose Big Picture because you get opportunity here. And opportunity, I know it's a word that's gotten cliched by this point because of how much we say it, but that opportunity is real. It removed the cap that a lot of different high school has. Here, we don't have a ceiling. You go as far as possible, as far as you're motivated to. If I didn't come to Big Picture, I probably still want to work on cars. Probably still be lost in my career. I don't even know if I go to college by this point.
So I'm of the personal belief that big picture schools is the next generation, the next evolution of education. What education is going to look like, it's inevitable. You end up making these students that are like miles and miles ahead of students in traditional schools because of this knowledge that they obtain, because of the real world experiential learning, because they have passion, because they have ownership, and because they want to be the best they can be, and they want to be the best in the world at whatever it is they want to do. Big picture is the next evolution of schools. It's going to happen because it needs to happen. It's like if you want your country to succeed,
Right.
if you want your state and you want your town to succeed and be able to compete in this ever-evolving job market, you need to teach kids how to think on their own. You need to teach kids how to think on their feet, to be able to be their own boss if they need to be able to have entrepreneurial skills, to be able to say, what is it that I need to do? How can I look at problems like opportunities, and how can I capitalize on the issues that we all face? And that's with everything. That's thinking like a scientist, that's thinking like an entrepreneur, that's thinking like an artist. If you don't know what big picture learning is, and if you don't know what these schools are about and how they work, you really, really owe it to yourself to check it out. And you should hop on. You should hop on while it's still early and become a part of this movement, this educational movement, this international movement that's happening all over the world. That's soon, mark my words, it's going to take over the whole world. So it's very essential, I think. Big picture is very essential for the future of humanity.
Right.
It's got to happen.
Right.
I mean, it's got to happen.
Right.
What else can I say? I mean,